Mics. Oh, it's working. Do you want to come over here? Hello, everybody. Could we give it up for the performers again? That was amazing.
So that was the Reimagine Quartet. They actually named themselves after the event because they basically created that for the event, which is amazing. So special thanks to Russell Wallace, Bonnie Soon, Curtis Andrews, and Rupinder Sindhu. I just briefly wanted to introduce ourselves. This is Tara Mahoney, and I'm Fiona Rare, and we're the founders and directors of Gen Y Media. In case you're wondering what Gen Y is, we're a youth-ran production group, and we produce events like this one. Some of you might know our Bring Your Boomers parties, and we produce public art projects like Work Life in SFU Surrey and Regenerate, which is in Purple Thistle Gardens. And we also produce media, particularly documentary content. Speaking of media, it's kind of the theme tonight.
Yeah, so we're convened here because Reimagine is about new ideas, and it's about a public institution. We believe that new ideas have a critical role to play in how we build on our existing public institutions. We're really grateful to be a part of this Reimagine movement and continuously inspired by the people that we work with, particularly the good folks at Open Media and Lead Now, who are running the larger Reimagine campaign. And it just keeps us going to be working with people who are determined to manifest a future that they can believe in. So that's great. And are we going to introduce Mike now?
We should thank sponsors first. So the first thank you is also just as hosts acknowledging our presence on unceded Coast Salish territory. We have an awesome list of sponsors: Canadian Media Guild, Canadian Media Producers Association, openmedia.ca, Lead Now, SFU Student Society, SFU Department of Humanities, SFU School of Communications, Fairmont Waterfront Hotel, Ola Urban Flower Project, Salt Spring Coffee, R&B Brewery, Bayan Bookstore, media sponsors now, Georgia Strait, Extra, The Tyee, the Vancouver Observer, Rabble.ca, Scene in the Dark, Poetry is Dead, CITR, Rice Paper Mag, Net Tuesday, Yelp, BCIT, and Lindsay Elliott is doing a photo booth in the upstairs, and she's awesome. Just wanted to mention her.
And our final sponsor, which this couldn't have happened without, is Van City, who has been I personally am impressed every time I go in there. It feels like my family. I'm not just saying that. I'd like to invite up Linda Morris from Van City to say a few words.
Hi, I'm Linda. Whoa, that sounds powerful. I want to say thank you for the great intro. We didn't pay them to say that either, so that's lovely. So I too would like to acknowledge that we're gathering on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, who've been custodians of this land for thousands of years. I also want to say that we're really thrilled to be a supporter this evening because I think we hold something in common. And that is at Van City, we're also trying to reimagine ourselves. In this case, reimagining our collective wealth. And when I say wealth, we're not just talking about money, moolah. we're actually talking about our society, our community, our environment, and we're always looking for ways to reimagine ourselves so that we can take our collective wealth and put it to good in this community. So that's what Vancity is all about. And you've probably seen our new brand, which is called Good Money. Maybe seen on a bus or a billboard or perhaps seen a television commercial, but the full phrase is, we help you make good money by putting money to good. So that's the key piece here, is that we want to connect the community by using that wealth to really uplift and create well-being for each and every one of us and the community around us. So that's key. And so it's really thrilling to be part of something that's, celebrating CBC tonight, because we understand that CBC is a connector as well. I'll tell you a personal story that when my parents brought me home from the hospital a few years ago, the next weekend they bought a TV set. So I don't know whether they got bored with me quickly, or I think they're just the sign of the times that they wanted a TV. And what did we watch? Well, we watched CBC. What did we listen to on the radio? CBC. And occasionally in French, since I'm from Montreal, Radio Canada. Right. And that's what we did. And why did we do that? Because they connected us. They talked about our country, about the diversity of our culture. They introduced us to arts and humor. They went well beyond entertainment. And they really forced us to think about things and to try to imagine a different future as they talked about our past. So that is really key, and why we're here this evening to support this event, because we understand what CBC has done to allow us to share our stories. And it's the sharing of stories that makes us powerful as a community. And I would say at Vancity, it's the sharing of your stories that propels us to do the great work that we try to do, that propels us to take those dollars and find ways to make our whole community better. Thanks. And so, that's why we're thrilled to be here to support Gen Y Media as they work with Lead Now and openmedia.ca in reimagining CBC. Because we think, again, that it's that collective voice that CBC gives us, and I think a little heart that Vancity gives us that's going to help us really uplift all our communities. So, thank you for inviting me.
So I'm going to introduce our wonderful facilitator, Mike Sheehan. We met Mike Sheehan on Cortez Island at Hollyhock right around this time last year, the Social Change Institute, and it was just magic watching him. I don't even know how to I don't even know what the name is, that the skill that he has, but it's magic, and you'll see it tonight. So without further ado, Mike Sheehan.
Hello, high fives. Boom, thanks a lot for inviting me. All right. Hello, everybody. Well, thanks for being here today. Thanks for being here. Respect to the Coast Salish people. When I say CB, you say C. CB? CB? All right, good. We're getting warmed up. Yeah, can we bring the house lights up a little bit? That's Steve in the back there is going to be helping us out with some tech programming tonight. There, just like to see this audience here. This is all of us. Okay. My name is Mike Sheehan. I'm from Beothic Nation Territory, aka St. John's, Newfoundland. Me mother and father, all born there. I'm a fourth generation Newfoundlander. My grandfather was a seal fisherman, and he was in World War II. And I've been living in Lekwungen Territory, Victoria, for the last 11 years now, and I'm really happy to be here tonight in the Vancity. So thanks, Gen Y, Open Media Lead Now, for inviting me. We got a jam-packed show. There's a lot of great material to showcase, so our time is so precious. Just want to acknowledge that. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day or busy evening to be here. But I'm thinking, we just came in, put up your hand if you know more than 20 names in the audience. Oh yeah, okay. Put up your hand if you know less than 10 names in the audience, just curious. All right. Hands up if you are actually from Vancouver, Coast Salish Territory. You're born here. All right, good few people. All right. Hands up if you're born outside of Canada. It's nice. Yeah, respect. Okay. Hands up if you speak more than one language. Right. Hands up if you speak more than 2 languages. Right. Anybody speak more than 3? Anybody 3 languages? Any more than 4? 4 languages? 4 languages, 4, 5 languages, 5. 4 languages, 3, 4, 5 here, 5 languages, 5. 4 languages. Would you be willing to shout? Oh, more than 4! I can't even see up there. I can't even see it. Just so you know, the viewers who are watching online, Tyler, how many people are watching online? If you can give us some of that information.
That is a fine question.
Thank you, Tyler.
509.
Good, all right, 509 people. Hello to our virtual audience right there. There's approximately, I don't know, is there like 900 people in here right now? Something like that? 600? 9? We'll get those numbers to you. But hello up there, I can't see you. This woman, would you be willing to share with us how many languages that you're speaking? Would you shout out the names for us? Is that okay? Or do you want me to ask this person over here? Yeah, do it. What's your first name? Chris? Everyone say hi, Chris. Hi, Chris. Oh, go ahead, stand up a little bit. Just stand up a little bit. Not even a lot, just a little bit. Okay. Good. However you feel comfortable. Okay, first, what are the languages, Chris? English, first language. Spanish, French, and Portuguese. All right, respect. Something about this, 2012 on the Gregorian calendar, we're learning more and more languages every single day. How about you, sir? Shout them out. What's your first name, please? Yeah. Kashif. Yeah. I sat next to Kashif when I sat down there. He's like, what brought you here to the event tonight? He's like, I never come to public events like this. This is the first time I ever come to something like this. So I thought I'd help you, really get into it a little bit. All right. What languages, if you will, please? What do you speak? English. Urdu. Hindi. French. And what? Memini. An Indian dialect called Memini. Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot for sharing. Glad you made it. Thanks a lot. All right. Steve, I want to try this one now. Okay. Yeah, all right. No. All right, we'll try this one. All right, here we go. Right now, if you can again, Tyler, give us a little bit of music. We're going to get ourselves warmed up. We're going to do a little mental aerobics, just so we all feel a sense of, excitement and enthusiasm. We're going to warm up our hemispheres of our brain. I want everyone to hold hands. I'm just joking. Just make a circle like this. Just make one circle if you can. If you can, like this, one circle. Look around. Just look around at the ocean of concerned people right there. With the other hand, go ahead and draw an X. One circle, one X, like this. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Just warming up the hemispheres. Yeah. All right, you got that one? Easy. Shake it out. Shake that one out. Tap your neighbor on the shoulder and say, hello, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, right there. All right, go ahead. With the other hand, if you can, go ahead and make a circle like this. Yeah. Now with the other hand, go ahead, feel your right and left brain communicating when you draw a triangle. With the other hand, one circle, one triangle. Yeah. You got that? Nice work, nice work. Shake that one out, shake that one out. All right. Thanks to David Diamond. I learned these from David Diamond, but here's a new one. Make one circle like this towards yourself. Just like this. Yeah, you got it. Now with the other hand, one away. Just one towards you, one away. Just feel the brain. Yeah. That's it. For fun and excitement, trying something new. Cross at the top, cross at the bottom. That's good. Give two people a high five and say, that was good, that was good. That was good! That was real good. All right, relax the shoulders, just relax the shoulders a little bit. Just relax the shoulders. Yeah. Go ahead, point one finger like this, put one thumb in the air. Now check it out. When you're pointing, no thumbs, no guns, just a point and just a thumb. All right, Tyler, we can fade the music out now. Create a little dramatic pause here. Oh, we're working well together, Tyler. This is good. This is good. All right. I want you to feel your right and your left brain either in harmony or at least trying to talk to each other when you switch. Like that. Just switch. And just give it a little switch. Yeah? Who's got that? Anyone got that switch? You got that one there? Nice job. Nice job. Shake that one out. Tap your neighbor on the shoulder and again say thank you for playing. Thank you for participating. Thank you for participating. Yeah. All right. Okay, really simply, really quickly. There is a lot of social capital in this audience. There are a lot of talent and creativity. There's a lot of care. You got yours. I don't think anybody forced you to be here tonight. We have some amazing guests. I'm going to tell you more about who these people are in a minute. But just to kick things off and to keep it really warm, I want you to answer this question. What brought you here tonight? And what's one... All right, okay. It's going to be interesting. I heard a harper right there. What brought you here tonight, and what's your earliest childhood CBC memory, if you have one? I'm going to ask you in a moment when I say go, rows 1 and 2. Turn around, groups of 4, make everybody feel included. Rows 3 and 4, you understand the pattern. Your job is just to help the people around you feel comfortable and engaged. We're going to tie this group in together. You're only going to get like 30 seconds to have a discussion, maybe 60. But I want you just to discuss it up. I want you to reach out, say your name, introduce your first name to the people behind you if you feel comfortable. And remember, your main job, I hope here, is to just help the people around you feel comfortable and included. Have fun. Go ahead. Go. All right. Say thank you, merci to the people in your rows. 5, 4, 3, falling into silence. 2, 1. Zero. All right, thank you very much. Nod your head, just nod your head if you met somebody new, if you met some new people in the audience today. All right, today is not about, consumptive process. We want to give everybody an opportunity to interact. We're broadcasting live to 500 plus people right now. The Toronto Sun, the Toronto Stars featuring this live stream. Tai is featuring this stream, and the cbc.ca website and a few more took the time to feature this on their websites tonight. So let's bring up some of the content right now. But first, for that opening band, they were just asked to say, can you put something together that's interactive and intercultural and fun for this Reimagine CBC event? And they said yes. They said yes, we're going to do it. So they call themselves the Reimagine Quartet. So you just heard from Russell Wallace, Bonnie Soon, Curtis Andrews, and Rupinder Singh Sidhu. Yeah. Nice one. All right. So let's get down to some brass tacks right here now. We're going to invite up Jamie Bigger and Riley Yo. They're going to tell you a little bit about their organizations, Lead Now and Open Media. Please come up on stage right there. Round of applause for Jamie and Riley, please.
everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Jamie Bigger. I'm with Lead Now. And this is Riley Yo. She's with openmedia.ca. And together, we're representing two of Canada's largest citizen engagement organizations. And we've been organizing the broader Reimagine CBC campaign. And we're insanely excited. We've never participated in an event like this before. This is a huge experiment for us. There's so many people here. It's just amazing to see everybody. So what we're going to do really quickly is we're going to go through a little bit of the why of the campaign, what we've done so far, and where we're going. But before we do that, Riley and I, we were in the backstage downstairs before this, and we were just kind of looking around and thinking about what was going to happen. We're like, this event it's so much cooler than we are. And the people who are to thank for that is Gen Y Media. So I just wanted to invite everybody to do a huge thank you to Gen Y Media for putting this together.
Okay, is this working? All right, so we're not going to be nearly as exciting as what's come before us. I'm sorry, but we are going to give you a little bit of information about why we're here. So when we decided to start out this whole Reimagine CBC.ca campaign, we really had two goals. And the first one was to build a community of support for public media. And the second was to reimagine the CBC for the age of participation. So for a culture that we know can become increasingly interactive, transparent, and community-based. So we really want to help the CBC seize the opportunity of the internet to start this kind of highly interactive and creative conversation with people like you who do believe in public media.
And so this is a really pivotal year for the CBC. As many of you know, the CBC is under real threat. And it's trying to connect us to this increasingly complex world and this incredibly challenging media environment. And so it's within that context that the CBC as a whole right now is going through this huge strategic review process to set its future for the years to come. And so with Lead Now and Open Media, as two organizations that care a lot about public media, believe that the CBC is really important and value it, we wanted to get involved in that, and we thought, well, we could write a report. But it's deep in the DNA of both of our organizations that mass collaboration makes things better.
Yeah, so we wanted to do something really super collaborative, and we thought, let's start a conversation. So we started an online ideas forum at reimaginecbc.ca, thinking, we're really not the experts, but you guys definitely are. So we asked people to answer the following question online. What is your idea for reimagining the CBC as a leader in participatory, creative, and engaging media? And to our total amazement, we had 456 ideas submitted in the forum. So 456 great ideas for reimagining the CBC. We also went and we sought out ideas and testimonials from media makers, actors, dancers, musicians, journalists, politicians. We even made a special trip to a retirement community to get some extra special input from our elders. So with the ideas forum process, what we really saw is that in the age of participation, what we can create together is almost always better than what we would create alone.
And at the same time, as we were organizing this ideas forum process, we ran an online campaign that was calling on the government to stop the severe cuts to the budget. And one of the things that I just want to highlight about this is that online campaign organized a huge number of people to oppose a bad thing from happening. So this is a map of the 36,000 people who have signed that petition all across Canada. And they were a super active community. 2,000 of those people volunteered to take it a step further and actually poster in their communities. And what we're doing now is, as we're organizing, as we've brought all these people together in this community to oppose the cuts, we're now asking them to come with us to work on reimagining the CBC. And they've all been invited to join us in a series of local gatherings that are kicking off next week to help join into this conversation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second.
Yeah, so as we're transitioning to this next phase, we thought that we would kind of give you a flavor of the conversation so far. So what can make the CBC a leader in participatory, creative, and engaging media? What we're seeing is that people want a CBC that educates them, not in that kind of old model of an active teacher with a passive audience, but we all want these kind of in-depth learning experiences that are interactive and engaging. So we want to see communities come together to ask questions of their leaders. We want to see citizens tell journalists which stories are being neglected. We want to light up the dark corners of our politics and society with music, story, film, and kind of collaborations that spark imagination and engagement.
And so tonight, you guys are joining into this conversation. Like we were saying, we believe that mass collaboration makes things better, that it leads to better ideas that have deeper support and are going to give us way more opportunity to create really positive change. So tonight, throughout the events, you're going to be presented with some of the best ideas and values that have emerged from this Ideas Forum. And we're going to be asking you for your feedback and input on that so it can feed into this broader process of reimagining the CBC looking forward. And the next big phase in this campaign, like I was saying, it kicks off next week. We've got local gatherings that are taking place all across the country where just volunteers have signed up online to host a gathering in their living rooms, in their kitchens, at a local coffee shop. And they're going to be taking these like best ideas with all of your feedback, and they're going to be having really in-depth conversations about how we can move the CBC forward. And then that's going to feed into the broader process. So you can go after this, you can go to reimaginecbc.ca and go to Reimagine CBC in your community, and you can find a local gathering or sign up to host your own.
So we're all being called upon to participate, to create the media that we can imagine together. And it's actually been really incredible to see how much all 456 very, very different ideas do paint one very complex and compelling picture of a CBC that plays this very crucial role in the age of participation. So we've taken the ideas and we've made this highly interactive questionnaire that we're going to launch next week along with the local gatherings. And the questionnaire captures the major values and projects that Canadians are excited about. So you're going to have a chance to answer some questions tonight, and you're going to help us tailor this really important guidance that we're going to give to the CBC. And then you'll then be able to share the questionnaire next week with your friends and family. You can also get some buttons and some stickers and some t-shirts here to help spread the word about the campaign. And then in September, we're going to gather all of this feedback together and deliver the results of the conversation to the CBC and to decision makers. And we'll be able to show that Canadians are behind this new vision of the CBC as a leader in participatory, creative, and engaging media. So the more people who participate, the stronger this vision will be. So I think that's enough from us. Thanks for being here. We hope you enjoyed the night. It's a very big experiment, so we're excited to be taking part in it with you guys. Have a great time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good job, Riley. All right, I'll take them both. All right, from there. All right, that's Jamie and Riley, everybody. That's Jamie and Riley right there. Some people who are helping out in the back, we also have Diana. She's going to be curating the live Twitter feed. Diana, are you back there? You back there?
Yes, she is, but she's avoiding the mic.
Okay, well, you know, I always I like to see women in technology operating the controls. So even though I can't see you, Diana, shout outs and respect to you right there. All right, Diana, maybe you could throw up that interesting Twitter graphic where people tweet in and it flashes on the yellow screen. And while I'm talking, there'll be some more information coming up from the Twitter sphere and Twitterverse. And,
Can indeed.
Can we do that, Tyler? Go ahead, yeah.
My computer's having a bit of a fritz, but let's see what we can do here.
We'll roll on. We'll do what we can. So if it does come up, I don't know how much control over the live tweets that we do have, but it's interesting to see some of the questions that are showing up. Later on in the show, we have a live living room conversation. We're going to do a panel discussion, but we thought an interactive living room conversation might be in order instead. So we're going to take some questions from the virtual audience as well as the live studio audience here as well. Tyler, how about the infographic for the percentages on how many people watch CBC TV, how many people take in CBC radio and Radio 3 and such?
That I can do. That presentation really did a number on my computer, Jamie and Riley.
Fun trivia question for you right there. How much do Canadians pay per year for the CBC service? Is it $124 Canadian, $65, $8 a year, or $34 a year? If you think it's 124, let's see some hands. Steve, a little house lights again if we can. If you think it's 124 a year, not many people. If you think it's 65 a year, a few people. 65. People think I'm $8 a year. $8 a year for the CBC service. All right, that's the most yet. And $34 per year. That's when, because somebody shouted it out and knew the answer right away. I was like, it's good. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And let's just refer to the graphic here. So the word right down here, hey? And that's the percentage of dollars that other countries pay for similar services for their public broadcasters right now. All right, anybody know Peter Mansbridge? Anybody know Peter Mansbridge? Yeah, big round of applause for Peter Mansbridge right now. All right. In leading up to this event, we're talking to a lot of people. It's like, what's your connection with CBC? It's like, oh, you're 14 years old. Tell me about your experience with CBC. It's like, oh, you're 40 years old. What's your experience with CBC? Like, oh, you're 84 years old. What's your experience with CBC? And it seems like everybody, even in the same age groups, that everybody has a different experience with CBC. That CBC, our Canadian Broadcast Corporation, means many different things to many different people. And my friend Lorna Williams, I asked her, it's like, so what do you think about CBC and how it's changing lately? Are they appealing to the younger generation? And Lorna's like, she's like, when I watch the National at night, and I see Peter all standing up, talking to us, I get tired. I get tired looking at him. It's like, he had a comfortable chair, he was sitting down, he'd read the news, it was really, really good, and now he's standing up, and I find it a little bit distracting. Are you with Lorna? Like, anybody feel that, Lorna? No. Any people like, yeah, standing is more exciting. It's like, the news gets into me faster. Like. Here's a trivia question on Peter Mansbridge. Peter Mansbridge. When did Peter Mansbridge start his work with CBC TV? What year was it? Was it 1952? Was it 1968? Was it 1972? Or was it 1979? Peter Mansbridge started with CBC TV. He actually started reporting as a CBC TV reporter before the National. Hands up if you think it was 52. Hands up if you think it was 68. Hands up if you think it was 72. And if you think it was 79. 79. All right, most people, you got it right. 1972 is when Peter Mansbridge kicked it off on the TV. He was a news reporter. Yeah, but fun facts, like 1968, that's when he started with the CBC radio. So that was his entry point right there into CBC. So points to the people who put your hands up there too. Reimagine CBC, when we first started telling people about it, and my friend Lorna too, and she's like, well, it's like, reimagine CBC? Like, why reimagine it? Like, why? Like, you're not gonna mess with my CBC. Like, I know you young people, what's gonna happen? How's it gonna change and be different? There's things that I like. And I was like, Lord, that's part of the process too. It's like, we wanna know like what's really working for Canadians. And can we brainstorm and dream up some new ideas? Just meet the people in the front of me. They're fans of... It's good. It's getting interactive right now. So the whole idea of Reimagine CBC is like we want to stimulate, we want to engage with as many people across the country as we can, intergenerationally, just like Gen Y does so well. And we want to start this national conversation. And we hear that the Toronto Star as well has put out a project called The Network, I believe it is, which is like a similar project. I think it was even inspired by Reimagine CBC. So the momentum's building a little bit. So there are going to be gatherings similar to this happening across the country. And I think this is the kickoff event. So here we are right now kind of making history a little bit together. To bring it home a little bit about CBC and the Canadian national identity, and if CBC plays a role in shaping our communities and our families and our country. There's this one writer, this one storyteller, Ivan Coyote is the author of 9 books. Ivan Coyote, this summer, Ivan's plan is to do as much glamping as they can. Ivan's going to glamp as I know. Ivan's from the Yukon as well, and going to offer us a little bit some perspective on CBC in Ivan's life. So right now, round of applause, Ivan Coyote. All right.
Tyler, is it Tyler? Hey, how's it going? So, I often get asked where I learned to tell a story. And the answer comes easy to me, without reaching. My grandmother's kitchen table. I can picture it right now. All my memories appear in my head like circa 1975 Technicolor prints, you know, with those rounded corners. Red rose tea in a chipped brown Betty teapot with Pacific evaporated canned milk and sugar cubes right out of the Rogers box on the mustard yellow and burnt orange Formica countertop. Ashtrays brimming with smoked right to the filter export A regulars and longer crumpled number 7 menthol butts marked with my grandmother's and auntie's lipstick. Molson Canadian and old stock stubby beer bottles and rum and cokes. Sometimes a rye and ginger on the rocks if you wanted to get fancy. And my uncles would tap the ash from their smokes onto the thighs of their jeans and rub it in with calloused palms. I don't know why I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And the ladies would half listen to their kids complain about who punched who first or who wasn't sharing what with whom, and then send us all back outside to play ball hockey in the driveway. All of this under a halo of cigarette smoke and the hockey game on the CBC in the living room. And always there were stories, always a never-ending stream of stories, never-ending and overlapping, interrupting and arguing with each other stories. I was the oldest of my generation, of 36 first cousins, and I would hang around the periphery, too old to play hide and seek anymore, but too young to have anything much to say, so I would just listen. And this is how I learned my family history, our legends, and our lies. Tell us the one about how would you know? You weren't even there. You were too young to really remember, but that is not what happened at all. Don't listen to him. He's always been full of shit. Oh my God, you remind me of your father when you do that. Remember that time? I do not recall now whose bright idea it was in the first place, but you are the spitting image. It sounds crazy, but it's true. I swear it runs in the family. Stories, stories, and more stories. And always the CBC radio on in the background. In fact, the sound of the theme song from As It Happens, if you know it, just hum it. Hum it in the background for a little minute. Makes me think of the smell of dinner hanging still in the air in the kitchen and the smell and the feel of dish soap to this day. And my mom used to drive this rusty white mid-70s Toyota Corolla. And one time in late May of 1980, we were all in the car driving north on the Alaska Highway on our way home from a trip to the Dairy Queen, which in Whitehorse, Yukon back then used to only open its doors from late May until about mid-September. And they had some excuse for this, I don't know, something about trying to sell ice cream in February in a small town north of the 60th parallel. I can't remember all the details now. And by all of us in the car, I mean my mom driving and her little sisters, my Aunt Roberta and my Aunt Nora, somehow doubled up in the front passenger bucket seat, and myself, my sister Carrie, and my cousins Dan and Christopher in the back seat. Thank God there were no such things as car seats back then, or if there were, we had never seen one, and if we had seen one, none of us probably would have cottoned on to the concept of a car seat, because then where the f*** would we put everybody? Anyway, we were all sucking back Mr. Misty's, and my Aunt Nora had the front window cracked 2 or 3 inches, even though the wind was still chilly, so she could have a smoke. Nora and Roberta were bickering about something up front, and all 4 of us kids were poking and elbowing each other, whipped up on syrup and pure cane sugar. And someone was whining about having one of those slushy headaches, and all of a sudden my mom wrenched the steering wheel hard to the right and skidded to a stop on the gravel shoulder of the highway. Shh! My mother had a way of making this syllable sound like a direct threat. So we shushed. Then she leaned into the dash and turned up the radio all the way, her left hand raised and shaped like a stop sign. Shh! Everybody shut up! We need to listen to this. The whole lot of yous. This is very important. They're voting in Quebec right now. whether or not Canada is going to be separated into two countries. And we need to hear whether the French people want to leave us or stay with us as one big country. I remember a sound like abacus beads clicking together in my head, or was it dominoes falling, or maybe it was a light bulb flickering and buzzing into on in my brain. I lived in a country. I thought, Canada was big, the second biggest country in the world. I knew this abstractly from coloring in maps with 10 provinces and 2 territories. I knew we were a territory. I didn't know what that meant, but that was the first time I ever remember realizing what living in a country meant. The Yukon was isolated and far away and different and harsh and not the prairies and not Vancouver and so not Toronto. But somehow, together, we were a country, right? And they were voting in Quebec and making a decision right then, very far away, and the only reason we knew anything about any of it at all was because we heard it in the car on the CBC radio. So, Stephen Harper and your Stephen Harper's government, is he still trying to call it that? Before you continue to dismantle the voice that is and has always been the soundscape, the background, the news, the scores, and the score behind my entire life's worth of stories, I will ask you, sir, to do the following. I want you to attempt to drive the entire Alaska Highway in the dead cold, snowing dark of January without once turning on the CBC radio. I dare you, not once. Are you listening, Stephen? Are you listening via the web? He's never listening. By the way, his wife's a lesbian. Shh. That's why he's so angry all the time. Okay, Stephen, not once do you turn on the radio. Not once, you arrogant, short-sighted, still vote-outable bastard. I am talking no road report, Stephen. No Sheila Rogers, no Books and Company, no news, and sometimes no news is not always good news, Stephen. There are still large chunks of that road with no cell phone signal, Stephen. So put your cell phone away. There will be no storytellers. There will be no music. There will be no interviews. No CBC radio at all. Well, maybe for like 3 minutes, just when you pass through Cache Creek, but the only thing on is Afghanada. Did I mention no road reports in January, Stephen? And if you can do that without falling asleep at the wheel or getting caught in a blizzard or rolling the truck we bought you with our tax dollars, Stephen, then carry on with your plans to dismantle yet another one of our public institutions. If not, then leave it be, Stephen. Or even better, fund it so we can change and improve it and have it carry another generation of 11-year-olds in small northern towns through their lifetime. And those lights, Stephen, in your rearview mirror, that's right. It's me. It's me, Stephen, and I've listened to the road report on the CBC, so I know what that road is like up ahead. And CBC has been good to me as an artist for over 15 years now. In fact, they're probably a big part of the reason why I'm standing here right now. So it's me behind you, Stephen. And I'm going to be keeping my eye on you, mister. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Ivan Coyote, everybody. They love you. They love you. Yeah, just try. Like, okay, if you're a car driver, do you listen to CBC in your car and doing that at home? When else do you listen to CBC? Just a couple people at a time, please. Shout it out. Like, when else do you listen to CBC? In the kitchen, at work. Bike ride. When you're hunting. Yeah, good. That's very Canadian. That's very Canadian. We have a lot of forests, a lot of forest space. Tyler, do you have any data for us? Can we check in from the interweb? Do you know what can we show the actual live feed of the Ustream? And can we see that and look at the text chat box and see if anybody's communicating with us at all?
We can give it a shot there.
Oh, there's George. Let's click on George right there. Strombo. Okay, what we got? Excellent. Who is that speaker? Wow, yeah, clap, 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 clap from the interwebs. All right, Harper, fund it. I love Sheila Rogers. All right, did Harper, bye. All right, I love Sheila Rogers. All right, that's good. That's live. That's real-time, unedited material right there from people interacting with us. That's enough. Take it down. Take it down. Take it down. Take it down. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Our next speaker, like what we try to do at the beginning, it's like we have this living room conversation and we'll open it up. Hopefully you'll have a chance to ask some questions from the audience. We'll get into it there. So we're trying to set the stage and Ivan, great start to that, and trying to set the stage of what is CBC, how does it work, why does it work, in what forms does it show up. So our next person, our next guest on stage, that she rolls deep in the CBC Radio 3 community. And CB3, Radio 1, CBC Radio 2, CBC Radio 3, sometimes affectionately referred to as the basement in there, and it's the lead of alternative music, counterculture, and it actually has a pretty massive community that extends way beyond Canada's borders. And I asked Christine McAvoy, who I'll introduce in a minute, I asked her, it's like, can you help us out? Yeah, she's great. Can you help us out with a little fun fact or some trivia about CB3, just so we can get the idea of it? And she's like, hit her phone up. She's like, okay, give me 1 second on the interweb here. Boom, boom, in her phone. She's like, okay, Mike, fun fact. There's a listener in Dearborn, Michigan, that's in America, Dearborn, Michigan, who has both a CBC Radio 3 tattoo and a CBC Radio 3 license plate, and he's actually 2011's Radio 3's Fan of the Year from Michigan, right there. We're reaching out. We're reaching out.
These are photos of the people that I'm going to talk about tonight, which is the YVR3. They're all, most of them are right there. It's my cheering section. I call them the nerds. They call me the mayor. Together, we're the YVR3. For the uninitiated, that's YVR for Vancouver and R3 for Radio 3, as in CBC Radio 3. For the unfamiliar, Radio 3 isn't just a radio station that plays amazing Canadian music from all over the country. It's also a community. I learned about CBC Radio 3 and my friends in a band called Said the Whale were first nominated for Best New Band Name back in 2007 and the CBC Radio 3 Bucky Awards. But I didn't really actually start blogging until I really wanted to win the this coveted CBC Radio 3 scarf on Trivia Tuesday. Did you get any of that? We have our own language. But my first real-life Radio 3 encounter happened at the Cultch in East Van on the Dan Mangan CD release show back in 2009. It happened in the bathroom. You see, Radio 3 has an online blog as well as just being a radio station. On-air hosts can create blog topics and we'll ask questions and start discussions. You can sign up, create a profile, and comment on them. A lot of people have creative blog names like Kirk of Doom or Alex Vanders or West Crunch. I can name them all, they're all right there. Me, I named myself Christine McAvoy. I have a name to establish here. Anyways, one fateful day I wrote on the blog that I would be attending Dan's show to photograph and listen. And if anyone wanted to see me and say hi, I'm really easy to spot. Tall, curly hair, giant camera, which is downstairs and I'm kind of freaking out. And so Brenda, aka Naughty Nerd, who's probably listening on the internet right now, That's how she found me in the bathroom. I don't really remember how the rest of us met. It's just sort of happened at different concerts around the city. But it's turned into seeing each other several times a week. Yes, these strangers from the internet have now become some of my best friends. And the funny thing is, it's not just a Vancouver thing. Many people on the blog have contacted us and come to visit Vancouver. For example, I have left my keys for a complete stranger that was going to stay on my couch. I went to lunch and then underwear shopping with a girl I had just met. I met an American man at the train station that was old enough to be my father and then chaperoned him around Vancouver. When I try and explain these things to anyone, let alone my mother, I kind of sound crazy. A year ago, I went on tour with a band called Tree Lines out to Ontario and back, and I met close to a dozen Radio 3 bloggers from all over Canada. I hugged complete strangers, we stayed at their house, they made us food, they stored our trailer, they crossed international borders to see us, they held house parties with us, complete with kegs. And I was so excited to see them all. We're complete strangers, but it feels like we know each other. And we kind of do, because we talk on the blog almost every day. For example, I can tell you that Tim, aka Music Soup, in California, prefers Canadian ketchup to American because I've sent him some through the mail. I can tell you that Sarah, aka Balls, that's her blog name, bakes a mean cranberry banana bread because she handed me a still warm loaf while I was at the merch table in Calgary. I can tell you that Russ and Kathy, who have been up in here, and he was the one commenting on there, aka CDNZ1 and Kathy are the first official blog schnog, a term Grant, who's somewhere here, created, which means they met through the Radio 3 blog and then turned their concert buddy relationship into the next level. They're the only official ones recorded so far. And I can tell you finally that Casey from the band Elliot Brood likes Tostitos hint of lime chips because his mom, yes, his mom, wrote on the Radio 3 blog, Babs46, that he liked them and I should bring some to the show when I went and saw them in Seattle. Seattle, by the way, is the place where Munch Crunch Lunch, aka Helena, and I had dinner, saw the show, then I slept on her couch, and we had only met that afternoon. Back to the YBR3. Over the last few years, we've done pretty much everything together, from going to festivals to having lunch or brunch every Sunday, via beach days, holiday parties, birthday parties. They even stayed up with me one night, pulled an all-nighter the night before I had to go to Ontario for an entire month. We got pretty bored after board games for a while. And of course, we see lots of live music. And pretty much every major city in Canada and several in the States have groups of concert buddies like this that are just as good friends as us. Then there was last year, the biggest Radio 3 fan meetup that has yet been recorded at North by Northeast. I wasn't there, but bloggers from Canada, America, even overseas flew into Toronto to see the music festival, hang out, and meet each other. Our friendships are all rooted in our love of Canadian independent music, but it's really CBC Radio 3 that has created this place where we can bond over it, celebrate it, and even have massive arguments over it, which actually just happened today. We're the strangest, most loving and supportive nation of people I have ever had the pleasure of meeting and knowing, and I have met a lot of us. And I might refer to them as the nerds, but it's sort of the easiest way to describe how we know each other when I try and explain this to people. With the amount of shows, live music shows that we see almost every week, it's likely that we would all have met each other, but I don't think we would have ever become the kind of friends that we are without CBC Radio 3 as a base. And forget knowing people throughout the entire globe where we have standing invitations to couch surf almost everywhere, almost demands that we go to these places instead of people just coming to us. yes, CBC Radio 3 has become a huge part of my life, mostly in part due to the hosts and the staff there who put up with seeing me on a pretty regular basis. And people actually think I work there. I have no idea why. And there's the man behind it all, who you'll see later, Steve Pratt, who's created such an amazing space that has ended up providing me with some of the best friends I've ever had in my life. If people are asking the question, how can the CBC be more community-based and give back to people, they really need to look no further than the flourishing and widely loved community that Radio 3 has already established. Between them and CBC Vancouver, they put so much work into engaging and entertaining the public, and we're pretty lucky to live in this city. It's a difficult thing trying to explain this, and I hope I've done it justice, because I know a lot of them are watching right now. But it's really unlike anything I've ever seen or experienced before. And Radio 3 has invoked such a passion in people across this country that usually you only see in hockey. But people are really rooted into independent music in this country these days. Case in point, a lot of you are probably here to see Dan Megan, and then the rest of the radio people are playing tonight. See, I knew to name drop your name, because then they'd clap. So I really encourage you all to listen if you've never listened. If you're what we call a lurker, and you just watch us converse, you should really comment, because it might look intimidating at first, but I can guarantee you that we'll welcome you with open arms. Thanks.
Yeah, that was Christine McAvoy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. How's everybody doing in here? Everybody's doing okay? Okay, just gotta make a quick little contact here. Let's see here. It's ringing. It's ringing. Tyler, you got some graphics here while I take this call, please? Hey, Stina. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. Stina, are you here?
I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Stina, where are you?
Up in the balcony.
Oh yeah, sweet. Can we get some lights up in the balcony, please, a little bit, right there? Stina, I'm down on stage right now in front, and I'm talking to the Reimagine CBC audience and some viewers. Tyler, how many people do we have watching online?
How many people do we have watching online, friend?
Tyler.
How many people do we have watching online?
Stina, how is the...
188. We're down, folks.
Oh,
188.
188.
I actually gave the wrong number earlier. That was the total views. It was about 200.
Okay, you got us really pumped up. for that one. It's okay. We're working it. So if you're watching online right now and you occupy a Facebook account or Twitter, just go on there and just like shoot your friends and your family a little something, especially people in Australia and on the other side too. It's getting late in Newfoundland. My family's like, good night, Mom. My dad. But send them an email or send them a message and tell them to come on and join us for the conversation. Stina, how's the balcony looking up there?
Balcony's pretty engaged.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna do a little something. So if you can, just take the lead up there and just try and pump them up a little bit. Can you just stand up, Stina? Just stand up right there. Right there. There you are. All right. Okay, I'm gonna hang up here. I'm gonna do a little something, and you just try to keep with me, but you just like help operate the operators a little bit. That's Stina, everybody. Okay, so we try a little something. right, we'll keep going then. We'll keep going. Keep going. Thank you, Stina. Our next guest is a very respected figure in this city and in many, many cities around the world. Right now, one of his latest projects is focused on the sacred headwaters. And he's in contact with the Tahltan people who occupy that traditional territory. He'll tell you more about it. This man is the author of 17 books. He is a National Geographic Explorer in Residence, rockin' National Geographic, and he's a friend of all of us here who know him, and outside of Canada too. His name is Wade Davis, and I'd like to invite him to the stage, please.
God, I think I'm on drugs. I'm wondering what I'm doing here. But you know, one thing it made me think is that if you really want to understand the difference between Canada and the United States, you just have to go to the grocery store. And in the United States, you go to Safeway, there's a social, economic, cultural, often racial chasm between you and the checkout person that's unbridgeable. You know it, you've experienced it. But when you get your groceries in Canada, that chasm doesn't exist. Have you ever thought why? It's because you know that they know that you know that they know that they're getting a decent wage because of the unions. And you know, no matter what your social and economic and educational background is, you know that they know that you know that they know that their kids go to the same school as your kids. And more importantly, they know that you know that they know that you know that they know that you know that if their kids get sick, they get the same medical treatment that your kids get. And those three strands woven together become a social contract that is Canada, the essence of social democracy. Countries aren't imagined, they're created by acts of human beings. The CBC is the glue that is the soul of this country. In the United States, when people refer to NPR, National Public Radio, they see it generally as sort of the domain of the eggheads and the pinkos. But the same broadcasting in Canada goes to everybody. And that's what makes Canada the place of decency and honor that it is. And one of the challenges we have in Canada is that even though we love the idea of the North, none of us go there. We've become the most thoroughly urban, God knows tonight's reminded me of it, the most thoroughly urban society of the G8 of all the industrial countries. But there are some people who are going to the North, and those of us who grew up in the North feel that it's indeed the weight of the North that hovers in the Canadian imagination and sort of defines the essence of the national soul. It's like when Margaret Atwood said, if you wanted to know the difference between England, America, and Canada, you only needed to know 3 words: for England, island; for America, frontier; for Canada, survival. And the purest expression of our patriotism is that line of Francophone verse, my country is not a country, it's the winter. You know, you can't imagine a Canadian politician, even Harper, wrapping themselves in the flag. Until 1965, we didn't even have one. And then the country came to a standstill as we argue over 1 or 3 maple leafs. Canada is something else. And what Canada is the winter and the way to the north and the beauty of our landscape. And that's really what I want to share with you tonight. I'm not only speaking of a place that is the homeland of the Tahltan First Nation, but I'm here with members of the Tahltan First Nation, Shad Day, who I'll introduce in a moment. Anita McPhee, are you here, Anita? We were hoping Anita would be here. But many of you have heard me often speak of exotic places, but tonight I'm not here to speak about the Amazon. I'm not here to speak about the ice of the high Arctic, the Syrian sands of the Sahara. I'm here to speak about my own backyard, a place known to the Tahltan people and all of the First Nations of British Columbia as the sacred headwaters, the birthplace of 3 of the great salmon rivers of home, the Stikine, the Skeena, the Nass. A valley where in a single day you can follow the tracks of grizzly and wolf and drink from the sources of the very rivers that cradled the great civilizations of the Northwest Coast. Could we keep these just rolling, these images? Great. John Muir saw the lower third of just one of these rivers, the Stikine, in 1879. He called it a Yosemite 150 miles long, and he went back to California and he named his dog Stikine after that river of enchantment. It's a land that is so wild and beautiful that you could throw England there and the English would never find it. In the entire lower 1948 of the United States, there's no place in the entire continent where you can get more than 20 miles away from a maintained road. In this northwest quadrant of British Columbia, an area the size of the state of Oregon, there's one road, a narrow ribbon of asphalt that slips up the east flank of the coastal mountains to the Yukon. In the early 1970s, I followed that road north soon after it was created, when it was cobbled together from logging tracks, when distance was measured not in kilometers, but in axles or tires blown out by the effort. I took a job in the Spatsizi Wilderness, our greatest wilderness park, as a first park ranger, and my job description was deliciously vague: wilderness assessment and public relations. And in 2 4-month seasons, I saw 12 people. So there was no one to relate publicly to. And in the course of those wanderings, I came upon an old grave that said, "Love Old Man Antoine, buried and died 1926." And it turned out to be a shaman. And the discovery of that grave led to an encounter with a remarkable man, Alec Jack, a Gitsan elder who had lived in that country for much of his life. And over the 35 years subsequent to that encounter, I recorded stories from Alec. Most of them were stories of Wiket, the mythological figure, the trickster transformer of Gitsan lore, who, with his folly, taught the people how to live properly on the land. And Alec died at the age of 96. And just before he died, he gave me a gift. It was a tool carved from caribou bone that his grandfather had made for him in 1910. I had no idea what it was, but he laughed and then told me that it was a specialized implement used by a trapper to skin out the eyelids of wolves. And it was only in the wake of his death that I realized that, in a sense, the eyelids in question were my own. And having done so much to allow me to see in that splendid landscape, he, in his own way, was saying goodbye. And if isolation has been the great gift of this country, now isolation could be its doom. You've heard so much about the tar sands, Enbridge, the controversy about Keystone, but these are just elements of a tsunami of economic development fueled by the steroidal growth of Asian markets. It is sweeping over the hinterland of our province. In Tahltan country alone, an area the size of Switzerland, there are no fewer than 41 major industrial proposals on the table. Some of these have great promise. Some of them are of dire concern. Imperial Metals, Canada's 75th largest mining company, has just secured, as of last Friday, their final permit to put an open-pit copper and gold mine processing 30,000 tons of rock a day for over 30 years on top of a mountain sacred to the Tahltan known as Tottigan, which is a wildlife sanctuary in the sky, home to the largest population of stone sheep on the planet. Over the course of the mine's development, literally 200 million tons of toxic tailings will be dumped into alpine lakes to drain the estuaries and the lakes that eventually form the Iskut River, which itself comes to meet the Stikine, one of the great salmon rivers at home. And if you go to the actual meadows of the sacred headwaters itself, Shell Canada has a proposal to explore for coal bed methane gas over a tenure of over 1 million acres, fracking the coal seams with injections of hundreds of thousands of gallons of toxic chemicals, which will create in the end a network of roads and pipelines and flaring wellheads, all to produce methane gas that in all likelihood will go east to fuel the expansion of the tar sands. For over a decade, the Tahltan people, both clans, Wolf and Crow, have actively opposed these assaults on their land. Men, women, and children, old and young, even elders in wheelchairs, have stood up on the blockade to keep the industrial intrusion from violating their homeland. For them, the sacred headwaters is a garden, it's a kitchen, it's a land of their ancestors, the burial ground of their grandfathers, and those who own that place by their reckoning are the generations as yet unborn. With the support of every municipality downstream and all of the other First Nations of the Pacific Northwest, they have up to today been able to resist this assault on their homeland. But now everything hangs in the balance. As of last Friday, the final mine permit was approved for the Red Chris mine. You have to ask yourself, what does it take to fail an environmental assessment process when the very fundamental design of the mine project calls for the dismantling of a mountain that is home to the largest population of stone sheep in the world, and where the design calls for the inundation of pristine alpine lakes with toxic tailings? The quest we have in that area is to send a message to the Canadian government that this simply will not do. You know, my own feelings about that country are so deep. I remember, the poet Gary Snyder said, when asked what we could do best to help the environment, he said, stay put. And I remember back in the 1970s, there's always been a series of assaults on this country as we attempt to industrialize the wild. And when BC Hydro planned to dam the Stikine with no fewer than 7 massive dams in the 1970s, there was a gathering in Iskut, British Columbia, home to the Iskut First Nation. And a young hippie back to the lander stood up and what he thought was a gesture of solidarity said, if they build this dam, I'm just going to have to leave this country. And right after him, a young Tahltan youth stood up with immense dignity and said, partner, that's the difference between me and you. If you build this dam, we're still going to be here. If they build this dam, we're still going to be here. My friend Oscar Dennis's father, Jimmy, once said to me, we should have a deal where all these corporate executives are forced to bring their families up to meet with us, to meet with our families, to see our kids. And let's get the kids together and let the kids make a deal as kids do, a just and fair deal that says for every tree cut in Tahltan country, a rose bush will fall in Shaughnessy in the garden of that executive's wife. For every drop of toxic waste that goes into a river in Tahltan country, a drop of equally toxic effluent will go into the rec center of the local pool where the kids swim and recreate. To the urban ear, that sounds ridiculous, but it's exactly what the Tahltan people say when they say, this is our garden, this is the only place we have. And the night that I knew that I would always stay with my friends and brothers of the Tahltan was the night when my daughter disappeared on our lake. And, Alec Jack, who lived out his life at our lodge, always said to me, in Athabascan culture, typically, if one person has a bunch of kids and someone else has few, the kids are shared because the community counts more than the individual. And there was always that notion, though, that the child that would stay by you. And Alec always said of my youngest daughter, Raina, she's the one going to stay by you. When Raina was about 4 or 5 years old, she disappeared from our property, and we were surrounded by a huge population of grizzly bear and black bear, and I couldn't find her anywhere. And eventually I went up the creek for about a mile, and I found this little girl in her purple bonnet with her work gloves on, and she was kneeling by a dead black bear cub trying to stroke it back to life. And I immediately looked for the boar who had undoubtedly killed that cub and threatened my daughter. And I picked her up and put her on my shoulder. And when I came back and told old man Alec the story, he took it as a sign. A sign of what? I wasn't sure. But just in the summer of 2010, my daughter Raina disappeared on our lake. And I had no idea what had happened to her. And just a week before, I had taken out of the drink 3 kayakers who had successfully traversed the Stikine Canyon, the K2 of Whitewater Challenges. And I went out on the lake worried about Raina. And I found her where I expected her to be, on a promontory across the lake where you can tie up the canoe and follow a game trail up by the edge of the forest to a rock bluff that overlooks the lake. And the change of perspective is dramatic, and our lodge is sort of across the way, nestled in the arms of Sky Mountain. And as I approached her in the darkness, I could tell that she had been sobbing. And as I reached her, I asked the obvious question, and she said, Daddy, this is so beautiful. This is the vortex of my life. This is where I was born and where I will die. And in that moment, even as the engineers of Imperial Metal went about their business not 3 miles from our home, because our home is 3 miles from the pit that they will construct if this permit is accepted by the Canadian people, I promised my daughter that we would never abandon that lake, that we would wait out the mine, and even if I was not alive in 30 years to experience the return of silence to the lake, she would be, and her children would be. And that's exactly what the Tahltan people are saying. They will always be there. And what we need to do as Canadian people is to support the Tahltan, support them in their defense of the violation of their homeland. I remember when I went to meet Premier Campbell, I was astonished to find he had never been to a quarter of the province. In the 10 years that SK Creek operated in Tahltan territory, they took out $25 billion of assets in gold and silver, and yet the community of Iskut to this day has no hockey rink, no elders center, no trust funds for kids to go to school. My brother Oscar Dennis once said to me, 45 suicides, and me and my sister stopped counting. So we have an obligation to the Tahltan people, like we have an obligation to our landscape. We must stop this violation of their hinterland. We must stand with them and protect the most beautiful place that you will ever see in your life. So please help us, help the Tahltan, and in that spirit I'd like to invite to the stage Chad Day, a remarkable young Tahltan lad working and studying to become a lawyer, and Chad's the kind of individual upon which the future of the Tahltan people rests. Thanks very much.
All these speeches people wrote are all written down. I just thought I'd try and remember mine. That's just how I roll. Anyway, Chad Day, Ushe, Tahltan, Jasini, Tlagohin, Hotsadene, Seskia, Estahe, Etheni, Estu, Metu, Jaate. And what I just said to you was that my name is Chad Day, and I'm a Tahltan, and I'm from Telegraph Creek. My great-great-grandmother, her name was Etheni, and that's how we organize ourselves back home, is through our family and through our clan system. And you know, that's only such a timbit of what we are back home, because one of the most important things is our land. And what I'm going to speak about in particular is my connection to the Stikine River. As Wade had mentioned, our land is very abundant and is very large, and we have 3 communities back home. And, you know, such an enormous part of my identity as a person is being Tahltan, is the Stikine River, is my culture. And, you know, the thought of that being ruined is just so overwhelming that I can't even explain it to you guys with words. I have 5 children, believe it or not. I'm older than I look, but I'm not going to tell you how old I am. I have 4 sons, and I have a daughter. And they are both Tahltan and Wet'suwet'en. And you could keep the pictures rolling. I think I brought 6. Those are my boys. Those are 2 of my boys anyway. And this is right by the Tahltan River that runs directly into the Stikine. When you go back to our oral stories, they say that that's where our nation began. And we go there every single year, at least twice a year. I lived in Tahltan territory, and I visited there about 1/3 of my life. And that's my daughter. It's my only daughter. And again, that's right by the Stikine River. And this is at our 100-year celebration that we had a couple years ago in Telegraph Creek. And you know, I never get goosebumps. Even now I don't have goosebumps. But when this celebration happened, it was just absolutely incredible. And you know, our people back home, our elders back home, they are so amazingly strong. It's just amazing that they follow their heart, they stand up for what's right, and they don't care how many police are there, they don't care what politicians in any foreign land, what executives in any foreign place say. They know what's right. They know what's right for us, and they know what's right for the future. And when it comes to our area, I think that what I really want to get across to people is that as Tahltan people, we're on the forefront. We're right there in enemy lines right now. But at the end of the day, we're talking about an area that gives birth to 3 incredible rivers. And those rivers impact so many people. The Skeena, the Nass, the Stikine, and that whole area up there, it truly is God's country. If you ever get a chance to come up there and you just contemplate what they're possibly going to do to that place, you'll cry your eyes out. The only reason I'm not crying my eyes out right now is because, you know, I do it all the time. I think about my children, I think about my elders, and I want to make my elders proud. I want to make my children proud. I want to keep that place pristine, not only for my own people, for the people downriver, but for British Columbia, for Canada, for the world. It's an amazing place. And I think that what I really want to say is that we need your help. We really need your help. Because what's going on right now up there is not right. It's very, very overwhelming. And it doesn't matter how many well-spoken, educated Tahltan people there are out there. We need British Columbia's help. We need Canada's help. We need the public's help. So that's all I wanted to say today, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you. Much respect. Thanks for sharing your words. Thanks for sharing your heart with us. Tyler, can we go to a slide of one of the suggestions that come up on the Reimagine CBC website?
Couple steps ahead of you, Mike.
Oh yeah, it's great. Good work, good work. So Tyler, how many suggestions? So this website's been live for over a month now, correct?
Oh, it's been live since January 24th.
Okay, January 24th. And how many suggestions have been made?
Over
Ideas?
400.
Over 400. And this is one right here. See if I can read it to you. Tara actually gave me a phone call when Chad was talking. It's like, that's awesome what he's doing. Maybe we should show the clip around the Aboriginal youth voices. So here it is. This is a submission. And go. I like to think that everyone who lives in Canada would be interested in learning about Aboriginal peoples and First Nations with all the rich history and wisdom contained in these cultures. These are people whose country have chosen to come and live. These are people whose country we have chosen to come to live in and have our children and grandchildren in. We should show the respect that is due and claim this now as part of our heritage. We can imagine the CBC more by reimagining ourselves, perhaps by letting go of our past hurts and concerns and truly becoming brothers and sisters. We share an awesome responsibility to Mother Earth, and we all have so much to learn if we are all to succeed. And that was the suggestion. Yeah. Submitted by I was looking for the name, so it was submitted by Rainforest. So that one got 4.1 votes going up. How many's out of that, Tyler?
Sorry?
Out of 4.1 out of what?
5.
Yeah, right. Oh, there's the 5 stars.
There's the 5th.
Right, I love it. All right, show us another one. Let's do another one. As we get an idea of some of the suggestions that are coming up from the Reimagine CBC website. And also, just before we head off to intermission, if you have a couple clips or a couple tweets that have come in, so we can just acknowledge some of our virtual audience as well. We can do that. Tyler, do you want to read this one?
I can do that.
Go ahead.
If you'll all play along. I'm an independent filmmaker. A lot of people in Canada are. Why not create an annual on-the-air independent Canadian film festival that runs for a week with youth 11 to 17 and adult categories, with categories being comedy, drama, and documentary, with separate lengths of categories. People post their films to the website and vote them up. The top 5 of each are put into a film festival that happens live on the air at the end of that week. Prizes could be TV spots, cash prizes, filmmaking equipment, scholarships, whatever you think would seriously help promote Canadian media. And I know that that is what CBC is all about.
Boom. All right. 4.7. 4.7 out of 5. All right. That's good. That's good for now. If we can have the house lights up a little bit again, Steve. And I think what we need to do is just to keep our time on time and our precious time together is just in a moment we'll go and have an intermission. For anybody tuning in internationally or who might not be fully aware what the CBC is, we just want to spend 5 minutes or less on building the identity. What is the CBC? How does it work? Who wants to take that? What is the CBC? How does it work?
I work there, so I should probably have a good answer for this, eh? CBC is a public broadcaster. It's yours. It's all of ours. There's tons of us who all work there, and we all love it as much as you do. And we're there to celebrate and enrich and reflect Canadian culture. We're there for a whole bunch of different things. And I think you brought it up earlier that, or it got brought up earlier that it means something different to everybody. We do a lot of different things. Radio, TV, English, French, I think 8 First Nations languages. The interesting thing about the funding piece off the top that you showed the slide for at the $34 a year, it also got brought up. We're one of the largest, second largest geographic country in the world. We do a lot of stuff over a lot of space, and we can't make everybody happy all the time, but it's our job to try. Maybe that's where I'll leave it.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, thank you very much. Nettie?
Is this on?
Or Kathy? Okay.
One of the most important things about the CBC is that it is not is that it is a non-profit public media, and that the kinds of stories and the kinds of voices that we hear across the geography of this country would not be heard, would not be possible if it wasn't a public broadcaster that did not rely on for-profit behavior in order to be where it is.
Well, the CBC for me has been a place that has shown my work. And so as an independent filmmaker, it's been a way for my work to reach its audience, not exclusively, but a really important way. And it's also been a trigger. It's been because the CBC has come forward and said, okay, we're going to show your film. That has allowed me to get financing for really difficult films. Films that, a documentary film takes 3 things: time, trust, and the money to buy that time, to gain the trust in the communities. And so historically for me, CBC has played a huge role in bringing really, really controversial topics to a community and allowed me, to the community, but allowed me to spend time to really go deeply into a community. And that for me has been extremely important. And I think one of the things that everybody here should know is that we're in the middle of a big festival right now celebrating the art of the documentary, Doc's up, which just opened. And we're in real trouble. Documentaries are in real trouble. They're an endangered species because that initiative to really trust, to bring in independent filmmakers to go into really gnarly, gorgeously complicated stories is in fact being really reined in. Of course, not just by the CBC, but because of what you've just mentioned in terms of the mandate, it's really important for all of you out there to contact not just the CBC, but the government and make sure that both know that documentaries, point of view documentaries have to be funded, and they have to be funded in a real way for the art of the documentary to continue to be made, and that is not just an extension of a newsroom mentality. And that's what I have to say to you, and a really, really important role for the CBC.
Thank you, Dave. Sean, you want some? Yeah, please go ahead, please.
I would like to take a moment to talk about Stephen Harper. I also want to answer the question, but I think that we've all noticed recently that a lot of things are changing in this country, and I was really happy that there was space made for both Wade and Chad to share their stories, and I think that those stories are very closely connected. For those of us involved in the environmental movement, there's a war happening in this country, and it used to be people had different opinions and different politics, but quite honestly, it's now a war, and it's a cultural war. And the front line of that fight is over the Canadian identity, because this government wants to define what it means to be Canadian, and they want to do it in a singular fashion, so that they can go ahead and do all the stuff that we actually don't want them to do. So I think this dispute is closely involved with the dispute that Wade brought up, and to me, the CBC is the front line of a culture war that's been started in this country, and I think that's a pretty serious situation. And also, I wanted to say I wasn't going to talk too much about Stephen Harper, but then Ivan Coyote said that really wonderful thing. So I was like, okay, we can say whatever we want.
Okay. Just so we know. Yeah. So obviously, you all speak for yourselves, and we'll all do the best we can to support each other on stage. And like sharing your truth and what you're passionate about is not only is it compelling for us as an audience, but that's the important information that we want you to share. And audience, the same for you. If you're feeling what somebody's saying, then you can emote. Either like you can like let out, a verbal, let out a sound, like be like yeah, or you could be like no. And just like make some facial expressions to your neighbors sitting next to you. So stay engaged and let us know how you're feeling as we move through this dialogue series. Okay. All right. So when Chad spoke at the end, and he's representing his people, the Teltam people, thinking like, how's this is connected to the CBC has played a role in showcasing the thoughts, ideas, perspectives, passion, lifestyle, creativity from voices that aren't just in the city centers. So just to help us understand the role of CBC and the Canadian national identity, what role does CBC play in our non-city centers? Anybody want to take that one? Please, Kathy.
First, I'll start with a personal story. When I was 19 years old, I moved to the Yukon. Ivan Coyote was born there, and I think she was very lucky to be born there. So I moved to the Yukon, and I spent the first couple years, I was there for 15 years, and I spent the first couple years pretty much in and out of cabins in the woods, very little electricity. Sounds far more romantic than it actually was. The only radio station, the only media you could get was the CBC, because the CBC has a mandate to be heard everywhere across the country. And it was such a paradox for me that in those first couple years that I learned more about my country and felt more connected to my community and to my country, and for that matter globally, than when I had lived in the city. because of the role of connecting us to each other and providing accurate information for us to be participating citizens. So the paradox was, the more isolated I became, the more engaged and part of a community I felt. And that was primarily because of the role of a national broadcaster that has to go places that it is simply not profitable to go to. Now, that's a remote community, relatively speaking. I was outside of Whitehorse, moved into town, very similar experience even when I moved into town. But this is the kind of experience that people have in all kinds of small communities, even if it's just 100 miles from an urban center. That people who don't get high-speed internet because it's not profitable for the big telecoms to put a cable down, and therefore can't get their information, or else they're still getting it in by dial-up. This is the broadcasting aspect remains a fundamental aspect for those people in the north and in remote communities who are on the wrong side of the digital divide.
Okay, thank you very much, Kathy. Steve, do you want to say a little something about either new perspectives, fresh perspectives, remote communities, or just comment on the sense of community within CBC, or how does CBC build community? How does CBC include all?
I guess the interesting thing that would be nice for everybody here to know, and first of all, thank you all for coming here. It's pretty cool to be able to come out to somewhere where all of you have come out to celebrate ways to make the place that we work at better, and that you care about it so much. Imagine if the people filled up the Vogue because they care about the place that you work so much. It's wonderful seeing that. It's awesome. And all the ideas that are pouring in, it means a ton to everybody that's working there. And we feel the community that's out there, and whether it's all of you here or whether it's the Radio 3 community, it's pretty special to work at a place where everybody feels so strongly about it one way or the other. And I think it'd be nice for all of you to know that CBC is full of people who live and breathe our public broadcasting mission. I've worked in a lot of different places. I've never been happier than working at CBC, because there's a reason you go to work every day. And you want to make a difference, and you want to do proud for Canadians, and you want to make everybody here in the room feel great about it. And we have a strategy that I think everybody in our company knows about, because we talk about it so much, called our 2015 strategy. And I think almost everybody in the company could say it. It's more Canadian, more digital, and more local. And all of our decisions going forward are trying to make a difference and reinvent and reimagine the way that we all work, so that we can make more of a difference with less and in different ways of working, but that we can have more impact for it. And you're starting to see some of that sort of stuff. We had a big music service that just launched in January, and it's doing really, really well. Thank you. You're going to see a big new thing coming out of Hamilton as a digital-only news offering in Hamilton. There's no radio frequencies available. It's not feasible to do it through traditional means. You're going to see a community-driven and CBC-driven approach to delivering news and current affairs in Hamilton. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff coming out like that. And the sense of community inside CBC and building it into our products and letting the public have ownership and participation in their public broadcaster is a direction we're moving in. And I don't know, I hope you'll all start to see the results and start participating in it, because when we build these things, a lot of it isn't just building programming anymore. It's building public spaces and tools for everybody to come in and be able to create and share. And as Christine did such a great job of talking about, really build relationships and communities that can't exist in a purely physical world for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. How do you reimagine the CBC?
I work as a documentary filmmaker, and I've really enjoyed bringing 90-minute, 100-minute documentaries into cinemas and onto the CBC and other networks. What I've done lately is moved, first of all, by being first intrigued and then been really excited by a whole new way of storytelling. And that has taken me into the multi-platform interactive storytelling on the web. And why? Because I think this is a medium that by its very form really embraces the really extraordinary complexity of documentary storytelling. Real life is complex as hell. And when you get on the web, you're able to really, really dance with that. So what just to give you as an example, right now I'm involved with a installation spectacle. We've shot up in the Adams River. It's being developed by the National Film Board. And we're taking footage from the Adams River, which is the biggest salmon spawn on the planet. And we've cut it with an idea of applying digital mapping technology to bring it down into the city and project it up onto buildings 1 to 2 stories high. So imagine this. Imagine if our national broadcaster was in on the bottom floor of that, in terms of funding and in terms of concept. Imagine if it was possible to reconfigure that public spectacle that we'll have in Vancouver into some kind of digital sculpture that exists on the web, and to have our national broadcaster to be in a position where when we talk about reflecting Canadian stories back to Canadians, they are doing it in the most in-your-face, cutting-edge way of storytelling possible on the web. So when I reimagine CBC, I reimagine that there's radio, keep it, love it. Keep it ad-free. Television, keep it. Get those long-form documentaries linear documentaries on TV. And when we're talking about digital, keep the fabulous work that you're doing in terms of music radio, but really build on it and move into that really extraordinary type of storytelling, which, face it, it's where we're going to be in 5 years. We're going to be dealing with technology we haven't even invented yet. So our national broadcaster, in order to reflect the kind of stories that Chad's talking about and really be there, they have to be really pushing that whole way of storytelling. And where does it start? Right here in Vancouver. Because we have also, with the National Film Board, we have an extraordinary kind of incubator of digital storytelling. So if the opening story for Doxa, what was it? It was Bear 71. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. It's an extraordinary installation. How about if, given the fact that both the National Film Board and CBC have been cut back, what would happen if you had that the imagination and the independents who are working with the National Film Board, creating this extraordinary kind of storytelling, and who's delivering it nationally and internationally? Our national broadcaster. That's what I'm imagining.
Thank you for that reimagining. We're feeling you. Anyone want to reimagine the CBC? Sean?
Speaking as a comedian, I think that if I was going to explain how I would hope that CBC would treat comedy moving forward, I think the first thing that needs to be acknowledged, that often isn't, is that comedy is an art form. And I think that if you acknowledge that this is true, and you ask Canadians to name, for instance, 5 famous filmmakers, 5 famous Canadian dancers, 5 famous Canadian painters, and 5 famous Canadian comedians whose work they're familiar with. That comedy is actually not just an art form, it's a very Canadian art form. And what's really unfortunate about that is that if you look at the government grant system, comedy is actually the only art form that has no grants. So CBC is really all we have. That is our government grant system. And we need not more of it financially, but more of it opportunity-wise. And those opportunities don't have to look like more money. They can look like smaller productions that are local, that give voice to different communities that maybe are political. Because there's funny people all over this country. And the Canadian identity is not one thing. It's in different communities all over this country. And we can be exposed to that through comedy. So I would love to see this more Canadian, more digital, more local thing also include comedy as a efficient austerity era production measure.
I like it. I like it. Do you want to take some of this too?
So I want to talk about journalism. I think that the other legacy of the CBC that I am deeply afraid that we are losing with these constant cuts is the importance of investigative journalism and the importance of speaking truth to power. We are, Sean said it and Ivan Coyote said it, we are in a period of dramatic change in this country. Dramatic change in the world, both economic and politically. And if we don't have an independent way to talk about what is happening, if we don't have good journalism, if we don't have the kinds of funding that journalists need to do the job they can do in CBC, the national broadcaster, then we are in a lot of trouble. If we leave it to the major corporate media, we will get a sanitized version. And it's fine that that version is there, but it cannot be the only version we hear. We need a diversity of voices. And when we talk about reimagining the CBC, we have to talk about the framework of what we're talking about. The CBC has been systematically and deliberately underfunded for almost 20 years. We have seen not only, and it's not that the Canadians don't support it, that is a complete myth. A poll from 2009 indicated that 3/4 of Canadians thought the funding for the CBC should be increased to at least $40 per capita from the $34 it is now. That's 83% said we want CBC funding increased. And what happens? A $12 million cut to news and journalism. That is fundamentally a political act. It's a political act to cut funding to a public institution that 3/4 of your public supports and thinks should be increased. This is not about whether we support the CBC or not. This is about how we ensure that funding gets increased so it can continue to be a decent and honest investigative journalism wing.
Just to add to that, it's really important too, not only to tell Canadian stories back to Canadians, but also have a Canadian perspective on international news.
This is, otherwise, what are we left with in terms of North America?
We really, really need this, and the fact that the international bureaus have been cut back is a huge loss, and it is a very political move, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Tyler, just so we can roll on quickly, do you have any questions from the internet?
We do have some questions from the internet.
Let's think of this. Let's try and we'll wrap this in 5 minutes, and we'll just try to give really short answers and try to include everyone speaking. Go ahead, Tyler, please.
We had a question come in on April 29th from KT Harvey asking, compelling us towards youth engagement at all levels and mentorship apprenticeship relationships is what that word says, programs and policies. And we also just had a comment come in via Twitter from Hillary Smith saying, how do you reimagine CBC engaging youth? So maybe in the spirit of intergenerational dialogue, we can talk about what traditional CBC values and structures have to offer youth and what youth have to offer those traditional values.
Okay, thank you. Tyler. Steve, I see you nodding your head. You want to go for that?
Yeah, you know, I think this will apply to youth, but it'll apply to a lot of other pieces of this as well. Everything's changing really quickly. And, you know, I come to this with a music bias, so music is always my example for this. But if you think of, you know, we've done a lot of work and thinking around the music and how we can serve Canadians and music fans and Canadian musicians more effectively. And the thing you realize, and a lot of this is where the youth piece ties in, is there's so many new ways that people want to connect and find meaning around music. And this could, again, apply to news, journalism, current affairs. There's so many different ways to do it. And I think in the past you had TV and radio and print, and it was, I know this is kind of an old, often used cliche, but it was always a one-way push of making it available through a broadcast medium. And we have to keep thinking about what are the ways where are the unmet needs that are public needs of a public broadcaster, and how do we reinvent ourselves to make sure that A, we're meeting those needs, and B, that there's not other things that come along that take people away, where they choose something other than their public broadcaster that is not about the Canadian thing. And it could be other international things or whatever, where we get our uniquely Canadian perspective on things. And that's where you get something where we've taken a lot of people's jobs and reinvented how they do it so that we can launch a digital music service. And if you think about CBC Radio 2, which is a great music network, but it's one 24-hour station to meet all the musical needs of Canadians. And you've got Radio 3, which is one digital service, but which everybody can get, but it's focused on one type of music, which is Canadian independent music. We realized we're not actually meeting all the needs of Canadians that we can do for it. And we redistributed a lot of the way we thought about it and realized that digital is the way where we can expand and grow. And we have 14 different genre communities around music, where there's 10 classical music streams and 2 or 3 jazz ones and singer-songwriter ones. And there's community pieces built into that. And artists can create their own pages, and music fans can come in and build their own music playlists. Regardless of what we program, they can take control and do their own things for that. And I think it's got to be getting away from the notion that we can solve everybody's needs with programming, and start providing some of those filters and some of that programming that's the starting point, and the parts that are, particularly, like you said, around investigative journalism, or where there are abilities for us to help make sense of a world. In a music space, that means, there's all the music services advertise we have 12 million songs. We want to be the people who help make sense of it and start, giving you entry points into which ones are worth your while for it. But if you don't like what we're doing, we want to be able to make sure that you can go in and find music you like if you want to wade through it, or you can meet other people who like music that you like that may be different than what we're programming for it. And that's really, to me, where this flip happens, where we can be helpful as the people who work there, but we need to let the public have ownership in the public broadcaster too. And I think that's where the youth will come in, is if people feel ownership in their public broadcaster and they care about it because it means something in their life and they participate in it, that's where we're relevant.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. I want to come to the studio audience, so we'll just come just a moment, and maybe someone can raise a hand and you can ask a question. But just to comment on what Steve just said, that I understand that there's the idea of let's start a database for Canadian artists, music artists, and doing that. And there was some ridicule in a Globe and Mail columnist that happened. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I see here is that he doubted that there was 1,000 bands in Canada, but there are 29,506 artists plus 140,667 individual songs on the archives.
Yeah, it's amazing. I used to work at Much Music before I came to CBC a long time ago, and it's kind of funny because I thought, well, I work at the nation's music station. I know all about Canadian music. And I came and showed up at CBC Radio 3, and I couldn't believe that there's this whole world of music that I didn't know about, A, and B, that it was all unbelievable music. Just amazingly talented artists all over this country that aren't getting played anywhere else.
Okay, let's segue there. Thank you so much. Artists, creativity, artists having an opportunity to create community, to showcase their work, to have CBC as our grant system, so artists are supported to showcase their work and to give their opinion on controversial, any specific subject matter. What's the balance between creativity, supporting citizen-based, crowdsourced material with hard news, hard fact,
journalism, and I hear there's some debate in like, should we do more programming that involves crowdsourced material, or should we keep these really trained professionals delivering the news? Kathy.
Well, you need both. You absolutely need both. You need to have citizen journalism. You need to have people identifying where where stories are being underreported. You need to have a CBC that's bold enough to go and find stories and not just follow the.
How do you mean bold enough? The CBC, they're not bold now?
Look, we all.
What do you think? Is CBC bold? Yes? Is CBC not? Is CBC? I don't know.
I think that the silence is interesting because someone just yelled out they're afraid. I think that there has been in the past couple years a shift in the CBC because they are afraid. I think that there has been a lessening of the funding and a threat of less funding, and so we need to show that that's what we want. We want to have them cover political stories and not be afraid of the consequences. We want them to stand up to Sun TV. And we want to give them the support, and to some extent that means a policy change. I know policy is going to make people in the audience snore like it does with many of my students, but the policy change is that we have to have a leadership of the CBC, like the president and the board, that is not appointed by the Prime Minister.
Okay. There's a reimagine.
I just want to say that there are... Sit down.
Tara's like, Mike, 1 minute, one minute, Mike.
I mean, there's two really important parts of the CBC, at least. One of them is cultural and one of them is news, informational. And both of those are fundamentally important to democracy, to culture, to who we are, and to the world we want to live in.
Okay. Thank you so much. Maybe you can hand that mic right there. Quick question. I saw you had something to say there too, Sean. I want to get to you. Is there someone in the audience? Is there a burning question they have in the audience? So we only have 30 seconds. So are you okay with really quick answers? All right. Okay. Blue shirt, loud and clear. Blue shirt. Yeah. Thank you.
We can't hear.
Did anyone get that? Okay, would you comment on the question so the people in the back heard the question and make your answer less than 2 minutes long? I'm sorry to do that to you, Sean. Go ahead.
So generally speaking, you were talking about a really important story that wasn't covered by the CBC, right? And that happens not just with the CBC, it happens with all major media. And I think that the reason we really need to open up these mechanisms to citizen journalism is that journalism is great. It's great. We need it. But it's also really tied to this concept of objectivity, or more easily explained, there's two sides to every story. And in fact, when you poll young people about why they don't watch the news, it's because we know, yeah, there's two sides to every story, but nowadays, one of those sides is just lying. And that's the truth. And so if we can't say something without giving voice to both sides of the stories, and sometimes have to self-censor ourselves, then that journalism is going to miss out on a lot of stuff because it's very opinionated. It's one side of the story, and a lot of us know it's the right side of the story. And I think that citizen journalism opens that door to more opinions. And there's nothing wrong with opinion. We actually need more of it.
There's another door. There's another door.
10 seconds.
And that is, really intelligent, point of view documentary filmmaking that takes real time with the story in the communities. And this is what is being squeezed out. And the reason why it's important to demand that CBC keep point of view, or to reinstate it because it's disappearing off the CBC, is because it is our national broadcaster, and it shouldn't be holding itself up to the same grading system as the commercial networks, right? There's a real place for real stories, and it takes time, trust, and money on our national network.
Time, trust, and money. Nettie Wild. Okay, do you think that this conversation has to end, it has to end right now, but is this pretty much, like, next time we organize this, should we leave more time for this debate to happen on? All right, I tell you what, if you're willing, because I know there's some great questions, I see your enthusiasm and your passion, I'm sorry we can't get to you right now, but if these people, if you say, I was at the Reimagine CBC celebration live event, past, present, future, and I have a question to ask, would you be willing to pay attention, or if we got you the questions directly, would you be willing to answer those questions and to give some response to any of these passionate people's questions? Make that happen?
And Mike, just a reminder.
Everybody except
Steve,
for
it's
Steve.
my turn.
He's not going to do it. All right.
If you tweet us with our CBC and a hashtag, we will get those questions and we'll see them on our computer screens and we know exactly where to put them. So that's OURCBC hashtag on Twitter.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You can go to the reimaginecbc.ca website. All the links for the Twitter and the Facebook will be there. Please participate. Let's keep the dialogue going. All right. All right. All right, there's a lot of support going on. The musicians backstage, just hang tight. We're going to get to you in just a second. I don't want a mutiny to start, so I'm going to help release the stress here by taking your question, okay? So everybody else, please, if we please just quiet down and we'll take your non-mic'd question loud and clear. Go ahead. All right, boom. Thank you for your passion. That's great. All right, all right. I feel that we're going to stop this discussion prematurely, but if you enjoyed this conversation and you enjoyed some of the statements and wisdom and expertise from our panelists, please show it in the form of an applause right now.
And I just want to say again to all of you, as the CBC guy here, thank you. Thank you for all your passion. Thank you all for all your support, and thank you for all your ideas. It means a ton to me, but it means a ton to everybody who works at CBC. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, yeah. I'll talk first. All right, so the Reimagine reimaginecbc.ca is the website for the suggestions. Thank you for your suggestion up top. There's 6 categories that these suggestions come out in. The first one is community driven. Number 2, a watchdog of powerful interests. Number 3, digital innovator. Number 4, uniquely Canadian. Number 5, open and participatory. And number 6, informative and in-depth. So we found all the suggestions that have risen to the surface fit into one of those 6 categories. Before we introduce these awesome musicians who were waiting patiently for us, you want to find out a last word there? I know, Sean, you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was hoping we could all do closing remarks, but... Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm still carrying this moment from the drumming at the start, and I realized that the reason was that I came to this event angry. Like, I know that a lot of us maybe have gotten angry over the course of the event when we've heard about all this beautiful stuff that's being cut. But like, when the drumming was there at the start, I was really like just ready to like do something. And I feel like the whole Reimagine thing is great. We do need to reimagine the CBC. But I think Sean Atleo, the leader of the Assembly First Nations, has been saying something over and over this year that's really stuck with me, which is we need to smash the status quo. And that exists everywhere. It doesn't just exist at the CBC. If we love the CBC and we love the Sacred Headwaters, we need to look at ourselves and what we're doing in our day-to-day, because that's where the status quo is supported, and decide what are we going to do that we haven't done before to protect the things we love. So that's a personal question that I challenge us all to reimagine what we're going to do.
All right. Here we go. Steve, Sean, Kathy, and Nettie, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for being with us. Special thanks to Wade Davis tonight, Christine McAvoy, Ivan Coyote for showcasing. Big shout outs to Tyler in the booth. Thank you so much, Tyler. Big respect and shout outs to all the people on the internet and the Twitter and the live stream. Thank you for tuning in, and let's keep it participatory. And like I said, this is the goal. We want to engage people in this conversation. We've encouraged other cities to have similar events, and it's going to start, Fiona, when is it? It's going to start on the 14th, and it's going to run until the 20th. And it's going to be a time for other cities to do similar events to this. And we want to stay in contact with those people. So go to the website, find out those details, and encourage your friends and family in other cities to get involved in their Reimagine CBC event. And also the Toronto Star, and their project is called The Network. And it's a similar campaign to this one, inspired by this one. Thanks a lot to Jamie Bigger, Riley Yo, Tara and Fiona of Gen Y. Respect. I wish we had a little bit longer for that conversation, because I felt like it was just starting to get heated and to get rolling a little bit there. I could see the people standing up in the balcony, and that was rather exciting. So hopefully next time we can extend it. But I do encourage you to ask your questions and make your comments, and we'll hold you accountable to answering these people's questions. Okay? Sounds good. Thank you very much. All right. So now, without any further ado, let's introduce the magicians, who are going to dazzle you with a spectacle, an audio spectacle of music that they play. These are creative innovators. They're all part of the Vancouver music community. I think they all know each other. They're pretty tight. You might recognize Hannah Epperson. You might hear the name Zach Gray. You might know Dan Mangan, was that his name? Yeah. And Adrian Knight. Is this a small cross section of the Vancouver music? That's what I said. Aiden Knight. I didn't say Adrian. I said Aiden. You can't understand what I'm saying, but that's okay, because in Canada we talk's a bit different. All right. So again, big round of applause for all the guest speakers tonight. Please, I want to call the musicians right up on stage right now. Right on. My name is Mike Sheehan. Thank you very much. It was fun being your host tonight. Let's make some music.
Mike, if I might interrupt for a moment.
Oh, Tyler.
We also, as these musicians set up, have a lovely greeting that was sent to us a couple days ago from some other fine musicians from the fine city of St. John's, Newfoundland.
No way, buddy. Right on.
So, if you will humor me, I'd like to... Oh, that music is still going. Let's just turn that off.
So this is a video from Hey Rosetta.
This is the fine...
From my hometown in St. John's, Newfoundland.
So obviously, we love the CBC. They've been great to us since the beginning. They've been a huge help in our journey from complete obscurity to moderate obscurity. But I think we all know they're more important than that. A well-funded public broadcaster can do important things that the profit-driven private sector can't.
I think some of my favorite moments playing this band have been in the summers, where we go out to Grossmoor and play the Writers' Fest out there. For the past 3-4 years, I think, they've all been recorded by the CBC mobile unit, which is one of the units that's directly affected by these cuts. And I think it serves an important role, you know? Because whether it's for homesick Newfoundlanders who get a piece of home with them wherever they are, or if it's people that want to see what our community is doing, I think it's a good educational tool, and it's great for the art scene at a national level be recognized.
One thing I think the CBC is really great at these days is maintaining connectivity, you know. Things like the CBC Music website, they're very great for streaming, that type of thing. Exposing some bands that maybe you might not discover otherwise. But also I'm really into podcasts, and it's interesting, you know, I can be so far away, I can be in an airplane over the mid-Atlantic somewhere and listening to the Gian Gomeshi interview.
There are a lot of amazing Canadian bands out there that would never see the light of day if it wasn't for the CBC.
They can afford to do journalism and investigate the powers that be because they aren't owned by them. They're owned by the people of Canada.
Their program, Canada Live, on CBC Radio 2, has been an outlet for many bands, big and small, to have their whole set heard on national airwaves.
CBC's awesome.
CBC rules, that's it.
Long live the Canadian music scene, long live independent music, long live the CBC.
All right, so as the musicians set up, the vocal mics are on the couch. Please help yourself. Please help yourself to them. And it'd be fun if you guys said a little bit about each other instead of like talking a little bit about yourselves. If you guys just said a little bit about each other, that might look nice with them.
I think Zach has a nice shirt on. This is kind of like, is this what it's like to be on Conan? This is...
I feel like that Hey Rosetta video would have been worth it if just for the accents alone.
I need you to help me with the mic.
Hey, so guys, can we give a big round of applause to Mike Sheehan for his help part this evening? Lovely job, sir. So this is Hannah Epperson. Over here we have Mr. Zachary Gray.
Woo!
This is Mr. Aiden Knight. It's like we're interviewing each other.
It is. How's your house?
I don't have one.
You have a house. You live somewhere. It's nice.
It's a great apartment, yeah.
Hannah,
Hannah, why don't you play a song?
Hi, gentle people. It's nice to be in a room with all of you. It's a pretty potent room of awesome.
mudslides. God forbid the world should see us as we are. The gutters shouting out tomorrow's headlines. Stop the publications that will be our ruin.
How about that girl? Okay, I should have mentioned in the beginning, like, this is what's gonna happen here. This is like a bag of 5-cent candies. There's just like one of each.
You're the Coke bottle, man.
Sometimes I feel like the marshmallow banana. Not for everyone. Okay, this one's, I've never played this one yet. This is for my brother.
In Montreal's tiny pond, she and I, we smolder. The local swan, my Amazon with coat hanger shoulders. And oh God, it's a mirage, she's not who I thought. I swim the Saint Laurent 'cause I lost her, and I succumb when all your nights are starry blurs. Will you remember me? When all your friends are photographers, will you remember me? The scene is set to see your face on every silver screen. When all you need is a hiding place, will you remember me? I refuse to reminisce, needle cracks and tape hits. The blue tattoos of the things I miss, are they bruised or cicatrice? Oh no, fear the plateau, there's no up or down. Co-stars and Hollywood czars, they flood my mind and I drown. Walking by your window, I called you for the first time. Yes, the one who spilled my drink on you last night. And in my underlit apartment, you let me paint you by the flame. I painted you 100 times, but still can't sign my name. I still can't sign my name. Nights are starry blurs, will you remember me? When all your friends are photographers, will you remember me? The scene is set to see your face on every single screen. When all you need is a hiding place, will you remember me?
Zach Gray, everybody. You probably have heard Zach's band on the radio. They're called the Zolas.
Have you heard Dan Mangan's band on the radio? They're called Dan Mangan.
It's a far more selfish band title.
Dan Mangan and the Mangans.
We had a really hot debate on this last tour. I should just, if I'm seeing a little bit out of it, I have hardly slept. I flew in today from London, so I'm a little bit out of sorts here. But we had a hot topic on this tour about finding like a title, and we didn't come up with any good ones, but we came up with lots of really ridiculous ones.
When we first met, you told me a story about how you were named, and it was that your mom loved Daniel by Elton John. And I thought that, I didn't think of this at the time, but I thought of this like a year later. Wouldn't it have been amazing if she had liked Rocket Man? Because then you would have been Rocket Mangan.
Or Rocket Man,
Guys, this is my time now. Okay? I'll sit back for a long time, just a couple of gut busters over here.
Hey guys, one of the nicest guys I know, Mr. Aiden Knight's gonna play us a song.
Hi there. First, I'd like to say, Ivan Coyote, you rule. That was amazing. What an incredible story. Really, everything about tonight has totally ruled, if I can use that term so loosely. But this other thing came up into my mind because I played this other event that Tara Fiona put on, this Gen Y event, and Zach was there, and I told this story, and I'll keep this really, really brief because it's really the only thing that's so poignant about tonight, is that when the Harper government were, bound to get reelected, I guess. One of the things that happened is that CBC Radio allowed these politicians to put together playlists, and James Moore, the guy who was responsible for these most recent CBC cuts, included Dan, Zach, and myself in his playlist. And it's like, dude, you never even would have heard of me if it hadn't been for the CBC. And this one's for him. Margaret in the morning, sleeping on her side, tossing men like nickels into an ever-rising tide. I guess she was a dentist before she fell in love, freezing Lenten smiles just to give 'em up. Margaret at the office, Margaret at 18. She said, sit right down a minute. She said, let me clean your teeth. So we settled down in Bozeman, in the corner of the world, and we raised a couple children, but we lost a little girl. Heartsick in Montana, we slowly grew apart. The grocery clerk in Montez, you were dancing in the bar. He rushed into the courtroom before the bed was cold, and the frosted on my windshield when you smiled and let me know. was a man across the canal. Margaret left the practice late in '86, and I left behind the Midwest. Forgot we ever kissed. She changed her number, couldn't check the call. The doctor gave her 6 weeks, she only made her shrug it off. Resting in her 5th week, I brought her buttercups. There's too much to say between us, and I'd only fuck it up. So I stared up at the ceiling, and I held a little hand, and you knew that I forgave you. Making other plans. Margaret in the morning, sleeping on her side, strolled into the waves of an ever-rising tide.
Rick said is 8 at night.
You want this, don't you? Come on over. Cuddle, Seth.
So, you know, tonight we've heard a lot of really great things. We've heard a lot of scary things about the environment, about our country, about a lot of things. And I found myself kind of filled with, at times, anger and fear. And then also, through it all, and surrounded by so much talent and also being filled with an incredible amount of love. And this is a song I want to play for you guys. It's called Leaves, Trees, Forest. And we've just spent 5 weeks on a very grueling tour all over Europe, and quite literally I'm on about 2 hours sleep right now. But I think that my kind of weary state has allowed me to be very open to whatever is going on here tonight. And I've tried to explain this song briefly, kind of. I tried to introduce this song many times while we were on this last tour, and I always found myself failing and kind of leaning on cliches or things like that to kind of get to the point of what I'm trying to say with this song. And leaves are small, intricate. trees are larger and bountiful and made up of little leaves. And forests, of course, when you step back, are quite large and quite gorgeous in their own way, but very disconnected from that little leaf in the first place. And that no matter what you're looking at, there's something so much bigger at stake, or something so much smaller, or more intricate, or more precise that you could be looking at. And I think that the leaves are us in this room tonight. The trees is the things that we look up to, the CBC, things that we feel like are important. And the forest is an insatiable appetite for a higher sense of consciousness that cares about asking questions and storytelling and living a life that is quality and full of love. So, this is what I have right now. In my heart is a ghost, and he drinks and he smokes and he keeps me awake. All through the night my heart shakes. So I live alone, I drink beer by the phone and it keeps me alive. I know there is hope, but I can't look for it. There are leaves in the trees, there are trees in the forest. There are leaves in the trees, there are trees in the forest.
leaves in the trees, there are trees in the forest. There are leaves in the trees, there are trees in the forest.